But wait a minute, I am a powerful woman. I left my salary-paying, 401k, pension-paying business when I worked in corporate America to go start my own business 9 years ago. I speak publicly, the #1 fear of most people. And here I am letting this 4-inch mouse downstairs run the show. With that, I put my dryer down, I threw my shoulders back, I collected myself, and I thought, okay, this mouse is not going to run the show. What it brought to mind for me is that we all lose our impact in one way or the other. We all lose our power in one way or another. In one situation, something causes us to be less effective than we might otherwise be. For me that day in December, it was a mouse downstairs in my kitchen. However, I want to invite you to consider, what is it that has you be less impactful than you might otherwise be? Where do you lose your power, and how could you be more effective? We're going to really look at how you can be more effective and get the results you want as a leader. Being authentic, being true to yourself, while at the same time being able to improve your ability to influence. One of the most powerful things that we can do to influence and to get results, it's in the other category, is to listen. That is one of the most powerful things that we can do as a leader, is to genuinely listen to others and to be present. And most of the time we think influencing has to do with getting our ideas across, with being persuasive, with motivating other people. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Stop, stop, stop. What do you do when you get to a green light?
Stop.
Okay, we anticipate what we think we're going to hear, right? Have you ever had a time where you've been really busy at work and yet you feel like you've gotten nothing done? Right? But you've been busy all day, right? It's because you're reacting to other people's agendas. How many of you usually have maybe 20, 25 things on your to-do list, and on a weekend it might even be more? Does that ever happen? Yeah. And how often do you crank through all of those things? Never. Right. And how do you feel at the end of the day when you haven't gotten through all of those things?
Very discouraged.
Discouraged, right. Not like, okay, I want to come back and do it all again tomorrow. Woohoo! Yeah. Right. What I want to encourage you to do is to narrow the things on your to-do list. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is to start to put white space in your calendar. White space gives you the ability to have some downtime, to allow for error. You know how we said that we don't have a day when there are no interruptions? Well, this white space accounts for those interruptions. Setting boundaries can be a challenge for people because we don't want to say no, is what you, to your point. And one of the things that I want to encourage you to think about is, what are you saying yes to and what are you saying no to? How often when you give feedback to people do you ask them how they want to receive the feedback?
Never.
Never. Have you ever been asked, how do you want to receive the feedback? Does anybody ever ask you that, or do they just give it to you? Right. So as a leader, how challenging is it? How many of you have had sleepless nights, or you're really worried about, oh my God, how am I going to tell them this? How am I going to share this with them? Very common. What I want to encourage you to do is ask the person, hey, how do you want to have this feedback? I want to share some information with you. How would you like to receive it? Boy, whew, what happens when it becomes a collaboration? We've talked about listening, being proactive, being direct, and this concept of creating collaborative relationships. What did we say earlier? We get things done through other people, right? If we have a collaborative relationship with them, if they feel trusted, respected, if they feel that they're valued, this is going to allow us to be able to be a lot more influential and get things done. So instead of saying to somebody, well, Molly, why'd you do that? I might say, well, tell me more about the situation. What were you thinking as this was happening? Get curious with somebody. How we frame it makes such a difference. And when we don't say, why did you do that? Why can be off-putting for people. It's a word that can put them on the defensive. I really want to encourage you to start asking how questions, what questions, and especially if you're coaching other people, this is really a much more effective tool to have a discussion rather than to ask, Why is that happening? So this comes from improv. We always want to be adding on. I really want to encourage you to eliminate but from your vocabulary. Use the word and. It's much more collaborative. People can hear it. It generates a lot more energy in that positive environment we want to create. To get curious about the why. A lot of times people will say, well, I can't do that. Well, rather than just take it at face value of, well, why can't they do it, get curious with them. I used to be in commercial real estate for 17 years, and I would do a lot of lease negotiations. And sometimes a tenant would say, or a prospect would say, well, we can't afford that rent. We can't do $22 a square foot. Well, rather than just say, okay, well, then deal's off, or we need this, I'd say, okay, well, help me explain a little bit about understand a little bit more about your situation. Well, then we would understand, okay, they needed more cash flow up front. They could pay it further down the road. We could structure the deal based on that. We could give free rent. We could do tenant improvements that would cost less. There are a lot of things we could do once we understood the why. And then we could get to a resolution. Is develop a win-win strategy versus a win-lose. And Marshall Goldsmith, who's an executive coach, says we have to stop winning. It's the one behavior that executives exhibit far too often in our culture, is that everybody wants to win all the time, right? And when we want to win all the time, what does that mean for the other person? They're losing, right? Not good for long-term relationships.